Good afternoon, food folks from the capital region and beyond. This is Steve Barnes from Table Hopping with another edition of Times Union Live. We're talking about restaurants in the age of the pandemic shutdown and the reopening that's been happening locally. Dining rooms have been open now for 6 days since last Wednesday, the 17th of June, or rather, most dining rooms have been allowed to be reopened because our guest today is going to tell us what happened when his was open basically for one night and then he got shut down by the city. If you've been paying attention at all to the food world in the last 5 days or so, you know I'm talking about Vic Christopher, owner of Clark House Hospitality in Troy, who is never a shy and retiring type, and we're going to talk to him today to hear what happened with him. Vic, do we have you?
Steve, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me on once again.
All right, let's catch people up. Clark House is your 1870s, 12,000 square foot, 4-story brick building on Broadway 207 to 217 in downtown Troy. You bought it in about 2013. You started with a little grocery there. It grew into a full-serve restaurant. Peck's Arcade was there for 5 years. You had Little Peck's Cafe next to it. During the pandemic, that grew into having the grocery came back, and you also have a garden that is shared with your restaurant, your wine bar around the corner, the Lucas Confectionery. Now, you were, with basically no notice, shut down. Clark House, that has been open in its current form for 5 years, was shuttered by the city of Troy at like 5 o'clock last Thursday afternoon when you were supposed to be reopening for indoor service for Little Peck's and the reemergence of the Donna's Italian brand. So tell us what happened.
Well, it was surreal. We opened up Donna's Italian restaurant, and thanks for the introduction, by the way. That was a great timeline, and it gives people a sense of who don't know what we do, kind of how we got to this point. So I appreciate you for that introduction. Peck's Arcade was an award-winning restaurant. We were a top 100 restaurant on many national lists. You're going to see a lot of fine dining restaurants look to change format. You will see this happen. We had no choice but to change format. And we've always wanted to do pizza. We felt that this was a good time to change the company around. Donna's Italian was a restaurant that we operated a couple of years ago. And it was a very simple, fun Italian menu and pizza-centric as well. And we thought that this would be the right time for us to do away with Peck's Arcade because it is very contingent on a busy dining room and full service. So we introduced Donna's Italian on the day that in-house dining was allowed via Phase 3 New York State on Thursday. And we were shut down by the city a day later on Friday. So grand opening, grand closing. And it took us all by storm. We were shocked. The move was unprecedented. Another disclaimer, I worked for the city of Troy. I was the economic development coordinator. I know what the city thinks in these situations. And I've got a lot of friends in City Hall. Maybe I have some enemies there as well. But I can tell you this was unprecedented.
All right, well, for two things. One, yes, can you stay back? Don't come in closer because then we lose half your face. But you played some part in this. You actually invited the inspection.
Yeah, we did. We made no secret about our desire to expand into the upper floors of the Clark House building for spatial distance dining. But it was a project that we weren't looking to activate on immediately. Previously, we had an understanding with the city of Troy that we would expand our fire safety and sprinkler systems incrementally. We began to do a lot of the groundwork to basically prepare to do the construction. And we were in the permit phase. But we never were issued a permit, although we submitted plans 6 weeks ago, maybe 6+ weeks ago at this point. But I had verbal authority from multiple people. I'm not going to air them out. Basically saying, like, we support this project. Go ahead, do your thing. You know, we're gonna get it right. And I had met with city officials on Thursday for a walkthrough. I heard their concerns. They wanted the entire building sprinkled. As opposed to our offer of just incremental expansion of the sprinkler system like we've been doing thus far. I said, you know what, guys? No problem. It's the right thing to do. We'll do it. We shook hands and we should have walked away, but instead I said, oh, you guys want to see what's going on inside the building? And that was it. They walked in the building, and the unoccupied areas, of course, have code violations. And so now we're in a red tape paperwork sort of cycle at this point, hoping to reopen for what will be Clark House Hospitality's own phased reopening, beginning tonight with our phase one, which is back to takeout and street dining with employees only in the building allowed.
Okay, is that an admission of guilt? You said the unoccupied areas obviously have code violations. I mean, are you allowed to have customers and employees in a building if part of it is code violations? I mean, why do you think your shutdown was unfair? You didn't have the permits. You had a verbal agreement. You said you had a verbal agreement, and there were code violations. So why is the shutdown unfair?
The shutdown's unfair because I had a plan to mitigate the issue of staff members wandering, or anybody wandering, into unoccupied parts of the building. And I came up with a plan on the spot, which now, meetings later and many emails later, that is the plan that's being prescribed anyway. Now, I've been on situations where buildings were about to be condemned, and an owner will draw an architectural plan on a napkin, and that's been approved by the city. I came up with the prescription that is essentially what we're doing anyway, but we are in a situation where the city must believe that there's a sense of liability. They've hired an outside consultant to come in at their cost to basically provide us an intermediary and oversee the negotiation here. And it's really one big waste of time, but we're in process and we'll get through it. Is it an admission of guilt? Not as much as I would say the city has even more egregiously flaunted their own protocol by not following any sort of process whatsoever. We were never even served with any formal paperwork other than a placard in the building. When it comes to complicated issues like this, it's difficult to sum up in one tweet. There's a lot of movement here, a lot of things happen.
Well, compare this. I mean, you've for your businesses, not residential, but for your businesses, you've renovated 6 historic buildings.
Yeah, we're aware of the process. We know exactly what it takes.
Okay, so compare this. I mean, you've been working on this building. What do you think went wrong? Is there anything logistically or logically or in a regulatory manner that went wrong in this process with this building that makes it different from your others? Or is this just some sort of arbitrary decision on the city's part?
It's a little bit of everything, but it's the sheer magnitude and size of the scope of the project that I think makes this significant. This is a historic mega property in the heart of downtown. It's a significant building, and it's a lot of responsibility. We're up for the challenge, and we're going to get it done. By the way, throughout this process, and we've done 7 long. This will be our 7th vacant building that we've rehabbed. But throughout this entire process, I've never pushed back on the city. I always tell these guys, tell me what color you want me to paint the building. It doesn't mean that much to me. You guys tell me what you need. I've never pushed back, and I'm not pushing back now. I will agree to anything the city wants to do, but it's a matter of getting caught into a paperwork slowdown. That once you're in the zone like that, unless you've been through it, it's hard for you to know what I'm talking about.
Is the building safe for your employee? If you're only doing takeout, is the building safe for your employees?
The building is safe for everyone. We have been doing structural work on this building for 7 years, and it was deemed to be safe 5 years ago.
And you have paperwork saying that? I mean, it passed some tests. There was a permit granted. There was approvals granted. You could open. So Absolutely. What's different now than 5 years ago when PEC's opened?
It's actually, things have improved. Things are much safer right now. And we have an updated sprinkler certification. A lot of it's paperwork. I call the guy, hey, can I get an updated sprinkler cert? Yeah, no problem. He types the letter, we're done. I've been doing more paperwork than actual work, which is disappointing to me. I've spent the last 5 days doing paperwork and doing architectural stuff. I don't like to do paperwork. I like to physically work. I like to actually improve the building with measurable beautification and structural improvements and safety improvements. I don't like doing paperwork. Now, we offered to bring the structural engineer in to verify that the building is safe. The city did not ask us to do that. That cost us an additional $5,000 to bring David Biggs and Biggs Consulting back here about a month ago. And he drew about a 20-page report of minor things that he would like to see done in order to beef the building up. But these are not major things. In the old days, he would send us a 60-page report, and it would take us 4 months to get the repairs done. Now we're on to minor structural issues, and it's more like strengthening issues at this point.
So, do you think you should be able to serve inside now?
Absolutely. Absolutely. But my paramount objective right now is to keep the people working. And so if we can do takeout, at least the kitchens can be functioning. We're here in the Lucas Confectionery here. We share a kitchen with the Clark House building. So our wine bar hasn't been able to have any food. And people walk in the door the last few nights, they walk in and say, "Oh, you have any food?" "Oh, sorry." And they walk right out. We've lost, I would estimate about $25,000 in revenue at this point. And in
Just
employee
since Thursday.
payroll. Yeah,
Just since Thursday.
Since Thursday, yeah. And employee payroll, a number that is pretty significant. I haven't gotten into that yet. And then additionally, we bought a bunch of food for our grand opening that we're sitting on inventory right now. We have to get this product out.
So when you first talked about this on Thursday, you described encountering basically complete intransigence on the city's part. They don't want to hear it. This is the ruling. This is the judgment. Boom, slap the placard on the door. Has that attitude changed in the last endless round of emails and phone calls that have happened? And what is your impression now of the attitude that you're encountering toward your efforts to reopen?
We have full cooperation with the city of Troy and full communication with too many people right now. We are taking too much focus away from the administration and everybody working in City Hall. It almost seems like everyone is completely fixated on what's happening over here right now. And this is a big city. It's 7.5 miles of historic vacant buildings, and they all got issues. And I just want this part to be behind us. I told the city today, it's our intention to finish the building as soon as possible so we can all move on with our lives. We're taking up way too much time and city resources right now, really for no reason. This is it's an overreaction, and I think everybody's overly fixated and focused on us for some reason. And I'm just looking forward to
getting come back. On. Well, a big part of that is all the noise you've made about it. I mean,
I have a different way.
You certainly raised hell about this. You had a live press conference last week. You made sure everybody in the press knew about it. You blew up social media over it. So if everybody's focusing on it, a lot of that's your fault.
That's right. And that's what's going to happen when you do business with me. Everything is public and transparent with me. Steve, you're my friend. And I always told you, you have a job to do. And when it's time to hit me, I'll take it and I'll accept it. And you can hit me over this. That's fine. You and I have a friendship. We also have a professional relationship. I have friendships within the city of Troy, but there's a professional relationship. Sometimes they're going to bash me. Sometimes I'm going to bash back, but I'm always going to bash back if you bash me. I mean, that's just the cost of doing business.
And so what do you need to do? Okay.
I just wanted to say that, whatever I do is in a transparent and public manner. I tell everybody what I'm thinking at all times. And that's why I got in trouble in the first place.
What do you need? What changes have you made between Thursday and now? And what more do you need to do before you can start doing takeout?
Well, that's the beauty of the way the city works, is that you can't do anything until a permit is issued. So basically, I was just working on setting the permit up. I still don't have a permit as of this minute. When we get off of this conference call, I would assume that the architect will have sent over his stamp drawings and that our sprinkler certification has been received and accepted. And then at that point, those are the 2 remaining items out of about 7 or 8 that were required in order for us to get a permit. Then I'm going to do the work required within the next hour or so, and we'll be open at 4 o'clock.
What are some of those specific things?
It's just limiting access to the upper floors, which I prescribed on site in the field when we were discussing this, and they had concerns. I said, we're going to limit staff access to the unoccupied parts of the building, and we will limit we'll limit dining to outdoors and the Lucas Confectionery, so people can come to the confectionery and actually have the Italian menu tonight if they like.
What do you need to do to be able to bring people indoors to Clark House?
Well, that would be what is being discussed now as a phase 2, and there's going to be a negotiation, and they're going to make some recommendations, make some demands. We're going to have to push back a little bit to try to get something a little more reasonable. It's funny. This all comes down to liability, and a lot of what the consultants were seeing yesterday or the other day when we did our walkthrough were code violations that they noticed that were part of the previously approved build out of Peck's Arcade and the grocery and Little Peck's. They were pointing to deficiencies, and they're not wrong. However, the stuff was built and we were granted a certificate of occupancy. But everybody has liability. So who's liable in that situation? Well, you have to say the previous architect is liable. But Chico Christopher, no relation, was the architect on that project, and he's dead. And so I'm sure, well, you know what? It's convenient for everyone, because I'm sure that everyone's going to blame Chico now, which is sad. The guy has a great legacy, but now I believe he's going to be used as the scapegoat to say, how the hell did this thing get built? Who approved this? Well, Chico did. Well, he's dead. Nothing we can do about it now.
Well, he was your architect. Wasn't there somebody on the city's side that was supposed to be approving this and saying, because who noticed the code violations? Wasn't that
I know.
city?
Again, why is there an independent consultant coming in right now to do this work that should be done at City Hall? I don't know. I don't have the answer for that.
Have they used an independent consultant before that you're aware of?
They've used them on occasion, but I mean, this is such a waste for this project. This is like baby stuff.
You fed thousands of people, tens of thousands of people in those spaces over 5 years, and suddenly they can't be occupied.
It's senseless. And a lot of it has to do with the closure of City Hall due to the coronavirus. And so
Right.
A lot of this is catch up. And I think, these people that work for the administration, they probably had a few months off, and they probably have a lot of energy right now. So they're probably up for this is their job. They have to regulate guys like me. And again, it's just a job. I don't take it personal.
Do you think you would have had an easier time if you were less loud and confrontational?
No, I would have been put into a slow delay where we would have bled for a long time and nobody would have noticed. Like my brother Corey Nelson at the Troy Kitchen went through. He was shut down for a month. Like my girlfriend Gina Kim went through when she was shut down as well with her back patio. And in both of those situations, they said nothing. And I watched that. And I said, if this ever happens to me, I'm going to go out there right away and hold a press conference, and I'm not going to stop talking until it's resolved. That's my method. And I said to the both of them, I was like, all right, you guys, you did it your way. Let's see if my way works.
When do you think people will be able to sit inside again?
I can't make that determination, really. I mean, my objective has been just to get these people working back in the kitchen tonight.
Yeah.
I'm fixated on that. Beyond tonight, we have to develop a new strategy to get our previous certificate of occupancy renewed and back in action.
Now, does that CO cover the courtyard? Or is that covered by Clark House, or can you use that for customers in the confectionery?
Yeah, we have a floor plan which I'll send to you. I believe you were copied on the email earlier today.
Yeah.
The courtyard and Lucas Confectionery have been cleared to remain in business. That was not part of this closure.
All right. So how many seats total do you have available for indoor dining now?
Paula, how many seats do we have available for indoor dining in the Lucas Confectionery? Count them real quick.
Well, there's 50 seats, so we're at half capacity.
Right. Well, there's 50 seats right now? Yeah, there's 50 seats right now in the Lucas Confectionery indoors. Our capacity is 99.
Okay. And how much sidewalk room do you have?
We have a ton of sidewalk room, and maybe the sidewalk had something to do with me aggravating people, because we set up a bunch of furniture immediately out on the street and the sidewalk. Just we felt that it was safer for people to dine outdoors, and I wasn't really interested in sitting around waiting for permission. This could be part of that. Maybe there's a little.
Okay, well, listen to that. I wasn't interested in sitting around waiting for permission, so you did it. I mean, somebody told me that on one of your Instagram broadcasts last week, you basically said, I can do anything I want. There was a...
Yeah, no, I know. No, I maintain that. Yes. Yeah, out in the street, I will set up furniture so people can be spread out and be outdoors because it's safer for them. So,
okay. Now, just to be clear, the parking is normally, when we're not in the middle of where we are, downtown Troy has a time limit on parking spaces, street parking spaces, curbside spaces, yes?
Well, they haven't been regulating them.
Well, no, so I'm asking, but normally, what does the law say? I can't tell you. Is it 2 hours in any given space you're supposed to stay?
Yeah, it's like whatever. It's like $1 an hour.
Okay, but those were suspended.
Yeah.
Okay, and they
So
have
I
not
set up
been.
furniture out in the street to make people a little happy. Yeah, I'm
Right,
going to take care of the customer first. Absolutely.
No, I understand that, but what I'm saying is you weren't breaking any rules because street parking time limits had been suspended.
Right.
So somebody could leave their car there all day,
Right.
every day, or
Correct.
you could put up picnic tables there.
That's right. That's
Now
which is what
that
we
was
did.
actually officially allowed under a program last year, right?
Yeah, you know what it was? I think some of the program coordinators, maybe I took their thunder away, because everybody likes to get credit for stuff. I wasn't doing it to get credit, but some people were developing the program and I jumped the gun on it. But I felt that it was important, like coming on the heels of the protests and after the pandemic, if people just wanted to come out and have a cup of coffee out on the street, what are we doing? We have to wait for a protocol for that? No, that's absurd.
Well, it's not okay if you're breaking a rule, but if they suspended the rules and you can leave anything you want there, then it's not. But I mean, government exists for a reason, so people don't. I remember having a conversation with you and Rick Orlando, and you were on your anti-government. You're like, I want to go somewhere where there's no government, that kind of thing. And Rick said, I've been places with no government. Believe me, it's terrible. And so I think in this case, saying, well, screw the government regulation. Well, we need government regulation to a degree. And as long as they've suspended their own rules and you can do anything you want in those parking spaces, that's fine.
Yeah, I'm not like some kind of cowboy that doesn't put a T-chart out there in terms of reasonability. That was a reasonable exercise in doing something that maybe was not necessarily permitted at the time. But you weigh the options and you say, wow, this is making people really happy. It's more important than am I taking a parking spot away?
Well, what you just said may not have been permitted. Anyway, you did that last year with permission. Yes.
Yes.
Street parking, so with permission. So you were just bringing back something that you thought you were allowed to do based on the suspension of the parking restrictions. So, Donna's, you served one night at Donna's?
One night.
Now, it's still 90 degrees out there, so I don't know that I want spaghetti and meatballs or chicken parm while sitting at a sidewalk table. But tell me about what on the Donna's menu is good for 90-degree weather.
Pizza's good in any weather. I mean, you can eat pizza, really, seriously. When can you have pizza? And by the way, I can eat spaghetti and meatballs in 90-degree weather. I mean, I can eat linguine with shrimp in any weather. The linguine with shrimp, the shrimp scampi over the linguine is really a nice summertime pasta dish. It's on the lighter side. But I mean, I'm an Italian kid from Brooklyn. And so for me, food equals Italian food. That's base food for me. I don't think of it as some sort of specialty food. For me, it's just food.
No, all right. Well, I'm more generously insulated than you are. So chicken parm on the sidewalk this afternoon. I think I'll stick to Prosecco and a salad.
There you go. Oh, the Lucas Confectionery, by the way, has the coldest air conditioning in the history of any restaurant ever created. We oversized it because it used to be really busy in here, but we have 3 separate air conditioning units, and we can get this thing down to 40 degrees. It's like a meat locker in here. Perfect place.
All right, that sounds delightful. I will drink bubbles in a meat locker anytime. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we've been chatting with Vic Christopher, always his quiet and unopinionated self. Thank you very much. Good luck in getting the doors back open.
Thank you. I love you all. I love you all. Enjoy, Troy. Thank you, Steve Barnes.
I'll talk to you soon. All right, this is Steve Barnes. That was Vic Christopher. Come back and join us again next week, 1 p.m. on Tuesday, for another chat about restaurants and the reemergence from the pandemic shutdown, how they're adapting, what they're changing, and what sort of governmental interference they believe they've encountered. Thank you all. Eat well and be well.